time, we did explain to those of you we met that we had had an initial meeting with Geranium Corporation and Highland Gate Developments, Inc., and that we came away from that meeting with the understanding that they are prepared to modify their development proposals to address issues which, again, most directly affect our condominium community. I wanted to advise all of you, Mr. Mayor and members of council, that we found that those meetings were positive and constructive, and we have now continued them. We do intend to continue them with a view, hopefully, to come to an agreement with the developer, and as soon as is practical. I have to say, though, Mr. Mayor, through you, to ask Mr. Givens to perhaps speak with his client to refine his understanding of exactly where we are in our negotiation process with Geranium Corporation. His comments were perhaps a bit optimistic. I had not intended to speak specifically on where we're at in the process, but I will say that we did receive a first draft agreement today. We haven't had an opportunity to talk with our own legal counsel on it. There are certainly plenty of issues, as you might expect, to discuss, and so we certainly intend to continue the meetings and feel optimistic about a favourable landing. That, at this point, is all I can add to my remarks.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. King. Joanne Bartholomew, please.
Good evening, members of council and fellow members of the audience. My name is Joanne Bartholomew. My husband Pat and I are original homeowners. We live at 109 Timberline Trail. I'd like to ask some questions tonight stemming from pages 11 and 12 of the agenda, beginning with parkland and open space. I'd like to say, first of all, that while there's absolutely no doubt that homeowners who might be facing or have a single-loaded road or perhaps an 11-meter house behind them have far greater concerns and more pressing reasons to object to the development application, there are other aspects of the developer's plan to question. My questions pertain primarily to the former 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th fairways, although comments in the agenda refer to any and all parkland and open spaces to be conveyed to the town. And I think one of the slides the town's planner presented tonight indicated that those conveyances may be as much as 48% of the land. So for those not familiar with the property, I'm asking about the 40-acre section that might become a large park. There are about 100 homes currently backing onto that property, encircled by timberline, cranberry, and trillium. The homes are 25 to 30 years old, and they all have landscaped backyards. Some have pools. Many have retaining walls of various sizes. They could be wood, stone, cement block, or in some cases wire mesh with rocks. Some of the walls were built by the former owner of the golf course, and others are brand new. The same is true about the fencing. Most of these yards are fenced, some by the original golf course owner, others newly installed, everything from chain link to wood to wrought iron. The perimeter of the property has mature trees, some of them planted by homeowners with the permission of the original golf course owner, others planted, of course, by the golf course. And landscaping has been done throughout the years to enhance and take into account those mature trees that now overhang and shade many backyards. So here are my questions pertaining to the parkland and the open space. Number one, the report says, and I quote, "Parks and Recreation Services are now in consultation with the applicant and the consultants." My question is, when and how will homeowners be consulted by the town? Question number two, the report says conveyances of any parkland and open spaces should be free of all encroachments and encumbrances. Did the town play a role in the encroachment letters that were sent to the homeowners by Geranium? Did the town participate in setting the standards for how those encroachments are to be settled and at whose expense? Number 3, fencing to town standards will be required on the municipal side of the lot line for all proposed and existing lots abutting the parkland and the open spaces conveyed to the town. So does that mean the town is now going to fence in all of the existing yards so that homeowners have no access to the open spaces or the conveyed parks? And will some of those 100 homes have double fences now? Lastly, an assessment of the value of trees on the subject's lands is to be required to determine the value of compensation planting. So is the town planning to remove or have Geranium remove for them healthy trees that overextend or overhang the existing properties? Will homeowners be consulted to determine the fate of trees that actually abut or overhang their properties? Has any consideration been given to compensation to be paid to homeowners who have now to re-landscape their properties because they'll be in shade?
30 seconds, Ms. Bartholomew.
Yep, all done. So I'd like to know, my last question, is it reasonable to put up fences behind houses that have been there for decades to keep homeowners out of the parks and the open spaces? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bartholomew. George Collins.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and councillors. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you on the application. My name is George Collins, and my wife Heather and I live at 14924 Yonge Street, Highland Green, and we're in Suite 306. Just to put it into perspective, we're in the South Tower, and you're aware of where the South Tower is, and we're just about dead center in that building, so we can see both ends of the property, including across the street. Just a little bit about where we fit into this. Heather and I are longtime residents of Aurora who are concerned about what is happening to our Highland Gate community. We moved to Aurora in 1974 from Willowdale at a time when we felt the congestion of the city was encroaching on our lifestyle, and that wasn't the environment for our young new family. Aurora offered a stable, carefully planned community. In the 41 years we have lived here, we can say we've actively participated in the town's growth. The first 4 years on Glass Drive at the south end of town, 35 years on Cedar Crescent in the northeast quadrant, and most recently 2 years in the Highland Green condominium on Golf Links Drive. Over the years, each of the homes we've owned has afforded us the opportunity to develop a sense of pride in being a part of the greater community. Neighbors and the town officials always working together, building a foundation that is attracting many young families to Aurora today. Please let me tell you what we have aspired to at Highland Green. We are in the South Tower facing south, and the view from our third-level living dining room is a $1 million landscape of mature trees, ash, maples, pines, and spruce. Across Golf Links Drive and beyond are more trees of similar culture and maturity, surrounded by the green space of the former golf course. A 4-story, stately mannered-looking retirement complex, and the cottage-style Highland Gate clubhouse. We're blessed with this, including the fact that all of this acts as a natural buffer to the commercial hubbub of Yonge Street and the constant flow of traffic up and down or across Golf Links Drive, which runs below us. As the owners of Suite 306, we respect change and growth which enhances our town. Unfortunately, we don't feel this way about this application, and for the following reasons. This will be a loss of enjoyment and a natural barrier of at least 20 mature trees with the demolition of the clubhouse and the construction of the new 10-story complex on that site. 2, the 10-story high-rise will dominate the neighborhood. 3, the ground level units of the new high-rise are to be designated as commercial with whatever type of signage may be used to attract their clientele from Yonge Street. This will be an eyesore on a residential street. 4, parking will be a problem for the commercial units and visitors to the new complex. Overflow space will be on Golf Links Drive for sure. Even though there's a no parking sign, they'll park there anyway. They park there waiting for their coffees at the other end, so why not in front of this new complex? And in the overflow space will be on Golf Links Drive and in Club Links parking lot to the north of Highland Green Condominium South Tower.
1 minute, Mr. Collins.
Okay. There is the shared laneway which provides access to the parking lot, and the increased use of this laneway will create a traffic problem for residents of Highland Green and visitors to the new complex. There are no sidewalks on this laneway, and the laneway is the only access route to and from the Highland Green garage. Our principal concern is the construction of the new story condo on a site which is outside the town's designated area for such structures. We believe the town's official plan has been designated to protect the current and future stability and integrity of the town's neighborhoods. While we can appreciate Club Link's desire to use their lands for financial gain, there must be respect demonstrated for the existing neighbors. If this application is approved, given your existing plans for the town of Aurora, what will stop construction of structures of similar style and size south of Golf Links Drive on other town roadways, such as Brookland and Henderson, once the precedent is set? In this regard, we object to this application submitted by Highland Gate Development Incorporated, and we ask that you make your decisions accordingly. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Colette Nemney, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councillors, staff, and fellow residents of Aurora. My name is Colette Nemney, and my husband, Jack Lorian, and I live at 14929 Bathurst Street, and we back onto the golf course on the northeast corner of Highland Gate. When you look at the proposed plan of subdivision, we are in that little square jog at the north end of the proposal. I have written to you a few times outlining our concerns with the proposed plan of subdivision, and in addition, you have received a submission from our municipal law lawyer on our behalf. I'd like to thank 3 of the councillors, John Abel, Tom Maracas, and Harold Kim, for having come to our home to see firsthand the absurdity of what is being proposed around our home. Over the next few weeks, I hope to have the pleasure of hosting more of you to come and see exactly what is being proposed there. Our family has lived in Aurora since 1989, and we've moved into our current home mid-2014, just last year, and have extensively renovated and have a very sizable investment in our home. Our home is situated on a lot that is just under 2 acres, with only one neighbor to the north of us, whose lot is comparable to ours. There are no other houses in our part of the golf course until you get onto Timberline Trail. The proposed plan of subdivision put forward by Geranium is unacceptable for a number of key reasons. The proposed plan provides that a number of 45-foot lots, wide lots, abut onto our properties. These lots simply do not conform nor are compatible with the surrounding neighborhood, namely our lot, which is in excess of 100 feet wide. The plan proposes to put an 11-foot retaining wall on the south side of our property. What kind of regrading is being contemplated? The land is almost flat on our property line. We have serious concerns about feeling imprisoned in our own lot. We have concerns about the maintenance of this kind of large structure and the water runoff. There is a very large storm pipe that runs under Bathurst Street and exits onto our property. The proposed plan has what we call 2 pinched lots on the southeast corner and south corner of our lot. These lots are oddly configured because of the very narrow section of the fairway that exists between our lot and the backyard of the homes on Timberline Trail. The southeast pinched lot contemplates that a house be placed 3 feet away from the fence at the back of our lot. They propose a 2-story house 1 meter away from our fence. The town bylaws require a minimum of 6 meters for an exterior side yard setback. Page 10 of your planning staff submission in tonight's agenda outlines the setbacks. The other pinch lot is practically all house and no land, also jammed against our property line. Picture an elephant on a handkerchief. Again, a major exception to the town's bylaw of 35% lot coverage is required for this house to be built. The incompatibility of what is proposed with our property and home is unacceptable. Our loss of privacy, houses practically in our backyard with 2 stories, the excess noise created by the road, these additional houses, and the loss of enjoyment would be protected by council, not granting the exceptions requested by the builder. But my submission to you tonight does not end there. I would like to raise an alternative form of subdivision design option that could be, that could be considered in an effort of minimizing the detrimental impacts of the current proposed lot pattern.
1 minute, Ms. Nemney.
I suggest that council ask staff to report back to you with an alternative apartment alternative in this section of the golf course. This will allow you to assess the pros and cons. And you may also want to consider asking staff to report back to you with a similar alternative for the opposite corner of Highland Gate. I respectfully submit that a response from staff on this alternative concept by early December is a reasonable time frame for this work to be done, and I see that Geranium would agree to that as well. In closing, I'd like to make some general comments. Since the plan of subdivision was revealed to the community in April, virtually no meaningful modifications or adjustments have been made by Geranium in response to the concerns shared by residents. They claim to have the perfect plan. As you've seen for yourselves and have heard from the community, this is a very imperfect plan. For example, at the last public meeting in response to narrow streets, the Geranium representative said that they did not plan for cars to be parked on the roads.
Could you please wrap it up, Ms. Nemney?
This is ludicrous. Will no one have family gatherings? Will no one come visit? I could go on and on with the non-response to concerns. And I'll put myself back on the list,
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Alicia Carter, please.
Quite the face, but you got close. It's Alicia Carter.
Thank you.
Yeah. To the mayor and councillors, my name is Alicia Carter, and I live at 106 Corner Ridge Road and want to express my thoughts. My husband and I both live there. We've been there for 12 years. Unfortunately, he can't be here tonight. So Geranium states that they will keep construction disruption to a minimum. This is similar to, I promise to love you in the morning. I know this because I'm in construction. Inevitably, schedules and costs are not adhered exactly as planned. That is reality. We realize that we cannot simply say no to the proposed plan, but we need to work together to come up with something that will work for us all. Our input to working together is outlined in a counter-proposal that was sent to the town in May 2015, so I sent it to all of you. Thank you to the councillors who responded to my email that I sent recently and agreed to come to my house in person. I know who you are. We have a number of concerns. Number one, water. We already have water restrictions here in Aurora. Will we have further water restrictions? California is currently experiencing severe water shortages. Look at the news. We are very worried about burdening our children with severe water restrictions. 2, trees, grasses, landform. If all the trees are removed as proposed, Then the wildlife conditions are not maintained, improved, or restored. They are destroyed. 3, wildlife. The birds wake us up at 4:30 a.m. What about you guys? If 80% of the trees are removed, where will the birds go? We want the birds to continue to wake us up that early, even though it's before we need to get up for work. Over the last few years, there have been many articles about monarch butterflies and their decreasing numbers. We propose a walking trail about 10 to 20 feet wide with naturalized sides and a wood chip floor down the center of every fairway of the golf course. Then plant milkweed on the sides for the butterflies. This will adhere to OR MCP for trails. Number 4, sewers. We have been informed that our current sewer system is already at capacity. Number 5, stormwater. New houses and hard surfaces will obviously adhere where the stormwater will flow. This has many residents concerned, including us. On CBC radio this morning, there was a person from the City of Toronto stating that nature continues on every day. By having concrete instead of grass, the water has nowhere to go and hence causes flooding. 6 and 7, traffic and noise. With so many units proposed, it will have an impact on traffic and noise. Number 8, consistency of the current neighborhood. Section 32.5 states that a lot shall not be created if it promotes strip development. Single-loaded streets promote strip development as the streets serve only one side. Counter proposal. We believe it is reasonable to build some houses where it does not interfere with the enjoyment of life and then create a nature trail about 10 to 20 feet wide. Current residents who back onto the golf course would be able to buy their section up to the nature trail mentioned above. This is in keeping with ORMCP. Also, at a prior meeting, a gentleman stated that we have the chance to link our trail system with systems north and south of us. The definition of a trail for us does not include concrete as a surface to walk on. In prior years, the golf course contemplated selling the land to the homeowners who backed onto the course. The joint venture, and I'll shorten that, I'll always say JV, is spending time, energy, and effort to sever the land. So why not to homeowners who already back onto this area? Also, the JV wants to deal with many buyers. So again, why not the people who already back onto this property? The JV can work smarter,
1 minute,
harder.
Ms. Carter, please.
Yep. The inability of a homeowner to purchase their back lot could be left to the right of first refusal by a neighboring homeowner or perhaps held by the town of Aurora as a green space with future option of purchase by the current or future homeowner. Our counter proposal has 56 units, 276 back lots, and 5 nature trails. These nature trails would be wood chips on the walking area and naturalized on the sides with milkweed plants for the monarch butterflies. My background is in finance, so now let's talk money. From a financial perspective, 56 units could generate approximately 28 million. Back lots could generate about 6 million. For a very small condo, it could be 7.2 million, totaling 40.7 million.
Okay,
if
Ms.
the
Carter,
cost of the land is 20.5, then the rate of return is very handsome in these current economic times. In summary, there is a precautionary principle. If you are not sure that a project won't hurt the environment, then don't do it. Thank you.
Ms. Carter. Dr. Hossack. I hope I pronounced that correctly, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Councillors. I live at 23 Doty Street, and I oppose this development as proposed for all the thoughtful and heartfelt reasons that have been raised by the speakers from our community. And I applaud the council for sending the developer back to the drawing board. But it doesn't seem like anything substantive has changed, except the smoothness of their presentations and the fuzziness of their assertions. The broad-based arguments have all been made, so I'd like to personalize this potential tragedy, and I invite every member of council at my home to see it for him or herself. I worked all my life to be able to retire to a dream community in a dream neighborhood on a dream street. Doty runs parallel to and south of Kennedy, excuse me, and backs onto the former first fairway and second tee. It is zoned R1, and the properties pay amongst the highest residential taxes directly abutting Highland Gate. My lot is a not very wide right-angled triangle with the slope axis being Doty, which is a double-sided road, and the vertical axis running along the golf course. My bungalow stretches along this property and is thus very close to the course. The proposed single-sided road H would run hard up against the back fence, sandwiching me between it and Doty. Several magnificent mature walnut trees straddle the property line. My deck has proven to be an ideal spot to kibitz with golfers and, more recently, observe individuals with pets, couples arm in arm, young and old, and whole families walking along this course. None of the walnut nor accompanying trees will survive Road H along this stretch of Doty. This spring, many homes on the other side of the fairway received encroachment notices, and the developer hosted a small meeting of owners on both sides of this section. He professed his flexibility and desire to work with us, but made it clear that those encroachments were his to seize. Nevertheless, we took him at his word, reflexibility and open discussions, and we raised a number of scenarios. By the way, the fairway between us is perhaps the narrowest of the entire course at this point, substantially less than the depth of a normal R2 house lot. So we asked, could Road H run down the center of the fairway at that point? Could they leave one narrow lot that could not support a home vacant? Would they be open to allowing homeowners abutting that section to share in the purchase of the land to preserve the character of the neighborhood and reduce the cost to the city of putting in the last proper remaining link to the 170-kilometer trail system? He answered aggressively no to all such proposals and showed not the least bit of flexibility in this matter. And just recently, he offered the neighbors on the other side two choices in a garbled, legalese sounding document. You got to read it to believe it. Sign off on his plan and keep their few feet of yard, or he will tear down their fences and adjacent shrubbery and erect new fences inside their yard. As I understand it, these so-called encroachment claims have not yet been tested in court. These unconscionable pressure tactics are the nature of the beast. Meanwhile, Road H will be mere steps from my deck and pool, mere steps. Imagine living with a full road at the front of your house and a full road behind your house. And on the other side of Road H will be the driveways and front doors of twice as many homes as on Doty, facing us and me through what used to be magnificent foliage, stripped away for the two-lane road and the too narrow allowance. So what we have is a destruction of home and rear property enjoyment and a massive wealth transfer through the loss of property values from those of us who live and support our community to a group of individuals that has swooped in.
About half a minute, sir.
The term carpetbagger comes to mind. I have about 90 seconds, Mr. Mayor. Do you want me to complete or sign up again?
No, would you sign up again, please?
Thank you. I will stop there, and I will return with my questions.
Thank you.
I see I have 17 seconds. Very well. What I will tell you is that I have a number of questions and I have a final brief comment, and I will return.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Wernberg.
Hello, my name is Klaus Wernberg. I do not live in the greater Highland Gate neighborhood. I live in the northeast quadrant of Aurora, Cedar Crescent. I have an interest in this proposal, as I've stated before, because it affects all of Aurora, not just the Highland Gate neighborhood. What seems to be at play here is a pervasive feeling that this is an acceptable item to process. I think we should be starting, before we go anywhere, with the reserve that is around this whole area, and we would like to know the wording of the motion that established the reserve. And I've been trying to get this from council and not from the staff, and it is not available, and apparently the councillors can't get it either. We need to know the wording of the motion that established the reserves to be able to get on with this. As you know, I've proposed that there will be a greenway in every section, northeast, southeast, northwest, and southwest fairway section of this golf course for everybody to enjoy and to have an interrelated trail system developed as a result and nature all around us. I've been trying to get the town's comments relative to parks and recreation. As you can see from this document here on the Aurora Trails Master Plan on page number 7, it says the proposed applications will be reviewed for consistency with the Aurora Trails Master Plan. I would like to have you look at this document, which I found in the streets of Aurora, and it has a date, June the 19th, and those are comments to Lawrence Cook, the manager of this file, from Gary Gradanus, with copies to Jim Tree and Al Downey. Those are the comments that are coming from the Parks and Recreation staff that we say here will be reviewed. They have been reviewed, but they're not being handed to the public to see, to have a look at what they have to say. And I would like you to know what they say about trails. The proposed subdivision layout does not facilitate trails as indicated in the Town of Aurora Trails Master Plan. Proposed trail routing is not consistent with the master plan routing, and significant portions of trails are shown on-road rather than off-road. Under point 13, clarification is required regarding to access, etc. But I would like you to note that this document has been written by the staff, and it's being held back in spite of written requests from the staff. I have strong objections to that, and it is under these conditions that we are proceeding with this application. We can't get the wording of the motion relative to the reserve. We can't get Parks and Recreation Parks and Recreation staff comments, and there are other matters. For instance, the parkland dedication. I would like to know why we are not insisting broadside that the parkland will be acceptable to us and not necessarily acceptable possibly to the developer. We have parkettes that are in corners of this development that are of no use to us, and there are some...
1 minute, Mr. Warrenberg, please.
There are some notes in here relative to that. So all I'm saying is we have an opportunity to establish a linear park with greenways, etc., and we are being basically stonewalled. The public is being stonewalled indirectly or directly, me directly and you indirectly, by not getting out the information that we need to get on with this application. That is all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Warrenberg. Mr. Kaminsky.
Good evening, Mayor and Town Council. My name is Greg Kaminsky. I live at 88 Kennedy Street West. So this is the house, if you recall, I was here last meeting. This is the house that is on the northwest corner of Kennedy and George Street, directly on the corner. It's a cultural heritage home, over 100 years old, and meticulously restored in 2010 by the previous owners. So I'm here to ask the council tonight to reject the proposal for the H Street development. It doesn't take a brain surgeon to look at the draft plan and realize that it does not fit the neighborhood. It does not fit the fabric of the neighborhood at all. In fact, the lot sizes on Doty, George, Kennedy are 4 to 5 times the size of the proposed lots on H Street. I don't know what H Street stands for. It's probably Horrible Street in terms of the idea of it, because there's all sorts of reasons why H Street should not be developed here. Not the least of which is it's going to add traffic to Kennedy Street, an area where the town clearly has tried in the past to reduce traffic by the installation of speed bumps. So I'm here tonight, again, to ask you to oppose, reject the H Street development. It does not fit the neighborhood for various reasons. And look, take it from me. I told you last time that the developer has a picture of my house on the architectural design guidelines that they provided to the town on the cover. And what a farce. Like, I mean, the architectural designs absolutely do not in any way fit with this neighborhood or the fabric of this neighborhood. And I ask you to reject it. Let's save the Kennedy Street neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Comiskey. Diane Grassi.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council, neighbors. My name is Diane Grassi. My husband Jim and I live at 49 Cranberry Lane. I'm also on the board of directors of the Highland Gate Ratepayers Association, and I have here a small pile of questions that we have gathered from our membership. So I'm just going to read through them till my 5 minutes is up. How will this development affect Aurora's reputation as one of the top cities in Canada to live in? Would the town ever entertain the idea of buying the land or some of the land? This has been talked about a lot, but no comments have been made by the council members. The addition of the park is great. The question is, where will the park visitors enter the area and park their cars? On the streets that are already narrower than the norm? Geranium agreed to put buffers like trees between current backyards and the backyards of planned new houses. What if the new homeowner decides to remove them because they want a fence or a different buffer treatment? What happens to our privacy then? How will the use of pesticide over 75 years affect the environment? After all this time, there has to be an accumulation of pesticide in the soil. With construction, it will be churned over. How do we know the topsoil is not contaminated? What will the impact on the sewer system and water pressure be? We already have low water pressure. Will that decline more? Will the change in grade elevation increase risk of flooding for homeowners in the community? And who owns the land east of Deerhorn Crescent, south of Kennedy, west of Murray? There is a chunk of land that is forested that is not part of the golf course. And the last question, I got tons of time. How are the intended structures considered compatible to the neighborhood and property values? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Grassi. John Jarman. Mr. Jarman, please.
Good evening, Mayor Daw and councillors, neighbors. My name is John Jarman. I live at 28 Petch Crescent. For golfers in the crowd here, that's the back of the 12th prior, the 12th green, 13th tee. Many of the issues that have been raised I won't repeat, so I'll just get at it really quickly. Number one, in order to shoehorn in houses behind me, they're talking about a single-use road, single-loaded road. To me, that's a huge concern. They're actually going to have the council approve a variance up to 25% in order to get the roadway in. Secondly, I'm deeply concerned about the grading that'll be needed in order to get the development put in behind us. With that comes concerns of stormwater runoff, flooding, which we've already had occurrences of already with development there. Thirdly, I'm concerned about, I have as do my neighbors. I have mature trees behind me. I have not been approached by a developer, or there's no direction in terms of what will happen to those mature trees. But that's a huge part of the fabric of this community and my own personal enjoyment of the property with my wife. In closing, you have a chance here there may be some development, but you have the tools at your disposal to use in terms of proper zoning and bylaws. Would you please use them? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jarman. Chris Neal. Mr. Neal, please.
Mr. Mayor, councillors, my name is Chris Neal. I live on 11 Highland Court. I have 200 feet of frontage that abridges the second green, and I've got a really simple question. Is the town prepared to take into consideration the concerns expressed by the community when administering the 1-foot reserves that are there to ensure reasonable and rational development? That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. Oscar Gia, I hope I pronounced that correctly, sir.
Mr. Mayor, councillors, all the neighbors, good evening. My name is Oscar Gia. My family lives at 80 Golf Links Drive, just for 2 months. We have been living in Aurora since the year of 2011. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to stand up and speak for myself and for my family. I have attended all 3 public meetings, and today I'm here with my wife, my parents, and my 2 kids. My parents do not speak English at all. They just come here to support. Although most local residents are Caucasians, I would like to represent the minority group and advocate for our rights. We purchased our property due to the seller concealed the fact there might be new housing developments at our backyard. However, we have already fallen in love with this nice and quiet neighborhood. My parents enjoy walking my children to school every day, and the kids love exploring the nature around where they live with their grandparents. Their safety, as well as all other residents in this area, will be greatly affected by the high volume of the traffic after the new development. As for the development, we understand, first, the owner of the land has the right to do any developments they want. Secondly, as long as their development meets all the requirements, bylaws, codes, it will happen. Thirdly, as a professional engineer with a PhD degree in aerospace engineering, I understand any technical issues could be solved. No matter it's a rocket going out of space, a cheating software on a diesel engine, or the ground under a building, the sewage, the traffic, and so on, it could be solved. I remember in the last public meeting, the developer read a long list of organization names like Bell, Rogers, Schools, or maybe Tim Hortons, I don't remember, who has no issue with the development. For sure, those companies will have no issues because this is not talking about a development in their backyards. And the more development will only benefit them for more business. I have to say, for those companies, all the organizations, consultants, or even councillors, mayors, after years, this whole development thing for all of you, it might be just a project out of thousands of projects of your career. After years, there will be only a pile of paper sitting on the shelf eating dust. However, for all of us, the person who living on this land, it is about our life. We will face the house behind us. Thank you. We will face the house behind us every day, every minute, until the day we move or the day we die. We're immigrants from China. You can see it from my name. Oscar is the name I picked it up once because my real name is hard to pronounce. So we're immigrants from China. We have to move away from our own country because we love Canada. And another reason is because we don't like those overbuilds in China. Most importantly, because we did not have the chance to say no to a lot of things. The whole world is amazed by the rapid changing and huge amount of construction in China. Beijing, Shanghai, you can name it, all the cities. But if you are a resident in one of those cities and you have to move away from where you lived for years, or you have to wear masks every day when you go out because of the pollutions from developments, you will not enjoy those constructions. As a ratepayer in Canada now, I'm proud that I could stand out and speak for myself and my family. I would suggest the mayor, councillors, and also the owner of the land to consider this development as a project for human being, not just a paper on their drawing board. And also show us the real democracy and that you do care about citizens' quality of life and well-being. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gia. Mr. Hashem, please.
I hope I get a standing O. Tom Hashem. I'm 52. I've lived on and off in Aurora for 52 years. My parents bought in George Street, 76 George Street, 52 years ago, and I've been in and out ever since. Bought my mother's home 10 years ago when I got married and decided to have kids, because Aurora is a great place to live. I haven't really followed this whole thing quite as closely as I should have because I'm not in the direct line of fire. I do live in George Street. However, I do also have a condo at Highland Green, so I guess I can speak here because of that. It's hard to say where to start on this. I've seen a lot of changes in the years. The golf course originally did include Golf Links Drive, Timber Lane Trail, Cranberry Lane, and all those areas. And I think when they originally sold off part of the golf course, I don't remember what year that was, I remember it being developed, but I don't remember the year. I don't think they intended to run 2 extra streets down both sides of Golf Links Drive. Simply looking at the existing official